Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host. This evening's topic is a general overview of Hope Partnerships and exactly what they do and all the wonderful things that they are involved with in the local community and the local organization. With me to discuss this evening's topic is Lauren Ash and Tony Lyons from Hope Partnerships. Guys, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
How are you?
Thanks for having us, Pete.
Not a problem, not a problem. Thanks for coming down. So, Tony, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're involved in the organization.
Sure. Well, I live in Old Saybrook. I've lived in the Shoreline for about 15 years now, and am actually involved professionally in affordable housing. I work for a company that finances affordable housing. And about 10 years or so ago, I was approached by some concerned residents on the Shoreline who were concerned about the fact that there were people living in motels, basically homeless families with kids in our local schools that were living in motel rooms in very substandard conditions. And there was also people concerned about the fact that the housing costs in this area were getting very, very expensive. Okay. And for first-time home buyers, young families who are trying to start out, kids coming out of college that want to live in, live in the area they grew up in, there were very few options for people to either buy a house or rent a house. And many towns on the Shoreline, there really are no rental options. If you can't afford a down payment to buy a house, there's really no place for you to go unless you want to live on the couch in your parents' house, which is not something most kids want to do.
No, definitely not.
So we formed an organization. It started at St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Old Saybrook. Okay. And we got a bunch of volunteers, people who were interested in this issue, and got some startup money from Middlesex United Way in 2004. Okay. And filed for a 501c3 status with the IRS, got our approval for that, and formed a board of directors. And by the end of 2004, we had a full-fledged, legitimate organization that was working to tackle this problem. And since then, we've had a lot of success. There's been a lot of receptivity to what we're trying to do. Lauren joined the organization as executive director a couple years ago, and she's done some great things in helping us kind of take us to the next level. And we're really excited about all the things that we're working on.
Who was the executive director prior to you?
We didn't have an executive director.
There really wasn't one.
No, we had, no, there was a program manager, and that was originally the title that I was brought in to run. And as I started to work a little bit more and more, I kind of wore a lot of different hats, and we moved on to my new title as executive director.
So as executive director, exactly what do you do? And by the way, you are Lauren Ash, and you are the executive director of Hope Partnerships.
I am. I kind of manage a lot of all the different facets of Hope. I do have an administrative assistant that helps me out. Okay. We have quite a few grants that we are that help run the organization. So I'm involved with the management of them, writing grants, reapplying for them. Okay. And then my day-to-day operations, a big part of what we do is education and advocacy. We go out and speak to different Rotary groups, town planners, zoning commissions, Lions Club, different groups into the town that really we think it's important for them to know what Hope Partnership is, what affordable housing is. I think a lot of people have a lot of myths about what affordable housing is, and we try to address those. I have a committee that we go ahead and we bring our show on the road.
There you go.
I guess you'd say. And another big part of what I do is trying to actually find properties that we can develop and build more affordable housing.
Okay. Now I'm going to put you on the spot. You ready?
Okay, sure.
Who's on your board of directors?
You want me to name every one of them?
No, give me 5.
I have a very strong, amazing board of directors of 19 members. I'll give you my
Your favorites?
no, my leadership. Well,
was gonna
Tony
say, you're
Lyons, of
probably on
course.
that list.
I am,
All
yes.
right.
Bill Attridge is our president.
Okay.
He's a retired banker, and he's very instrumental in the day-to-day operations. Chip Painter works for Guilford Savings Bank, and he's a co-vice president.
Okay.
We have another co-vice president. It's Ed Casella, who is a local attorney in town. Our treasurer is Rob Casano, and we have a secretary, Les Swenson, who is actually the pastor at St. Paul's Lutheran Church when they first founded Hope.
Okay.
So our members have a 3-year term,
Okay.
and then they have to term off for a year. And I have a lot of knocks on my door ready to come back after they've taken their mandatory year off.
Okay, all right, mandatory year off. Something
In our
I-
bylaws,
I was
it's a
gonna say
mandatory year. Yeah.
Something I've
Yeah.
never heard of with
Yeah.
an organization.
You know,
I
it's-
guess why? Just it's in the
I think it's
bylaws
just I think it's to give people a break, in
Right.
case they want to term off and try to go on to another group. But oftentimes they serve on a committee in our board,
Which is okay. Yeah.
and they're allowed to serve as a
All right.
volunteer.
All
And
right, good.
so far, everyone's been involved.
I think the idea is to get some fresh blood and some new ideas and recycle, get some new people to come onto the board, and also give, as Lauren said, to give some of the existing board members a break.
Exactly.
The other thing we have, which I think is pretty unique, is we have an advisory council.
Okay.
So these are also volunteers who are more prominent members of our community, who want to support Hope, are involved with Hope, want to lend their expertise, but don't have the time necessarily to be on the board.
Okay.
So we have, for example, the president of Guilford Savings Bank, the president of Liberty Bank is on our board, on our advisory council. All of the first selectmen in the area are on the advisory council. So Old Saybrook, Westbrook, Clinton, and Essex, they're all on the advisory
Lyme.
council. And Old Lyme,
Lyme.
thank you. So it really gives Hope a very broad base of support. And when it comes time for us to go out and look for properties or raise money, it really gives a lot of legitimacy to what we're trying to do. And I think people really respect that and are impressed by that.
All right. Now, as far as the organization, are there specific towns that you guys reach, or do you guys just reach the shoreline?
We, in our quote-unquote bylaws, we're defined as serving lower Middlesex County, and we surrounding towns. We say surrounding towns because just in December, we consolidated with Old Lyme Affordable Housing. So we reached across the river and joined forces with, we consolidated with their group. So we go Old Lyme, a little bit in East Lyme, we're starting to look a little.
Okay, sure.
Essex, Deep River, Westbrook, Clinton, Madison.
Okay.
So we're and we're willing to go further. I mean, we've done a couple speaking engagements up in Haddam. They've been looking at some affordable housing interest, and they called and asked if we could be involved, and we said, of course.
Yeah.
So.
And how are the towns, you guys are obviously getting a warm welcome by each of your towns that you're dealing with?
Absolutely. And we're trying to lay the groundwork in each of those towns to, get the community, give them enough knowledge to know this is what affordable housing is.
Right.
These are the people that will be living in your community. And when we do so by, we produced a video last year of the communities of hope, and trying to just, it's a small 9-minute video to try to share with people who the people are that would be living in an affordable housing development. So we have been doing that around town.
Okay.
I think one of the things that we come across a lot is there's a lot of myths about affordable housing, like Lauren mentioned earlier. And a lot of people think that when you build affordable housing that people from outside the area are going to move here. And what we found in lots of studies that have been done about this is that it's not the case at all. That when Hope built the ferry crossing project in Old Saybrook, most of the people that live in that project are from the area.
Okay.
And there's a number of people there that work either for the town, have kids in the local schools, we're in motels. And these are our neighbors. These are people that we know, that we see them at Stop and Shop every day. Their kids are in the school with our kids. And it's basically an effort for neighbors to help their neighbors.
Okay.
To make sure that those among us, everybody has a decent place to live.
Exactly.
And everybody has a chance to make a good in their life.
Exactly. And as far as, like, if I didn't know either of you and we started talking on the street, and I said to you both, why would I want to support Hope Partnership? What would you tell me and why?
Well, like I said, it's an effort to help our neighbors and to improve our community.
Okay.
You know, when we talk about trying to increase the economy, improve the economy in our area, we need people to work in Walmart.
Right.
We need people to drive the school bus.
Right.
We need people to work in our schools and drive the ambulance and do all the things that we as a community rely on.
Okay.
And if people that do all those things can't afford to live here, then the community is not going to thrive. That's why we need support.
And I also think that people don't realize that the people, when you grow up in an area, you have your family, you have your grandparents, you have your cousins and aunts and uncles all in that area. I think it's important. It's an important area of your life to have that support system.
Right.
And if you have to go live in somewhere 25, 45 an hour away from them, you don't necessarily have that support, that childcare possibly, or just that general support of your family. And I think that's a big facet that we try to focus on too.
Exactly. And you guys obviously are well received by the local communities that you guys are in, not only business-wise, but like all the local businesses and by all the community people that.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of support from local businesses, from local government, from United Way, a number of local funders. Absolutely.
Now, how do you guys obviously raise money besides grants? You have fundraisers and events?
We do.
Okay.
We have two events.
Okay.
One is generally in the wintertime,
Okay.
after the holidays.
All right.
And it's called our friend-raiser. So we don't ask for anyone to bring money, not even a check.
We'll take their money if they
Well, we
bring
would. We would. But we have sponsorships
Okay.
that, allow us to buy refreshments and snacks and everything. And then we just basically, to get the support, just to get people to know who we are. It's just a fun night out. We call it our friend-raiser. So in the early fall rather, we have a fundraiser.
Okay.
And the past 2 years we've held it at the Iverton Playhouse.
All right.
And we have a show. It's a theater night.
Okay.
Refreshments, hors d'oeuvres and everything, and then a show and a silent auction.
Okay.
And that brings a lot of money. So we do ask for money that night.
Okay, you do ask.
We do ask for friends, but we also ask for money.
You ask for friends, and then you ask for all their friends to bring money with them.
Exactly.
That's right.
Is that a correct statement there, sir?
Yeah, that's an accurate statement. The other thing that is worth mentioning is we do get annual support from United Way every year. And the Middlesex Community Foundation has been a big supporter, and some of the local banks have been big supporters. So we can't just survive on donations and the fundraiser events. Unfortunately, those would not be enough funds to keep Hope going. But we are able to, through our partnerships with United Way and others, we're able to do the work that we do.
Would you guys mind sticking around for another segment? We got to go into a quick break.
Sure.
All right,
Okay.
we'll be right back after a short break.
Turn here. There. Hey. Excuse me. So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host. This evening's topic is a general overview of Hope Partnerships. With me to discuss this evening's topics again, Our Laura Nash and Tony Lyons, guys, welcome
Hi,
back.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks for sticking around.
Sure.
And I guess we're going to open up the segment talking about ferry crossings.
Sure.
What is it?
So, yeah, I'll start. So Ferry Crossing is a 16-unit housing development that has been constructed in Old Saybrook.
Okay.
And anybody who ever drives down Route 9 and gets on 95 North will go right by it. You can't miss it from the highway. You can see it from the highway, and everybody seems to always be impressed by how beautiful it is.
Okay.
It was designed by a local architect, Point One Architects. It opened in 2012. And has really, I think, set a new standard, not only in this area, but statewide, for how attractive and how appealing and how well-designed affordable housing can be.
Okay.
And I think one of the things we tried to do from the outset was to basically say that just because it's affordable housing doesn't mean it has to look cheap. It doesn't mean it has to look ugly. That it can look as good as where you live, as where your neighbors live, and it needs to enhance the neighborhood and increase the value of the neighborhood and the houses around it. And I think we really achieved that, and we're really proud of what we did there and how good it looks. Okay. And there's 16 families that live there. They range in incomes from between 30 to 80% of the area median income. Many of them work in the area. A couple of them work for the town. And there's also some kids that live there that are in a school system that were already from this area and were living in substandard housing before we built it. So it's a great example of collaboration, and the town of Old Saybrook donated the land that the housing was built on. The state of Connecticut provided a lot of the financing. Liberty Bank provided some of the financing, and it's really been a great success.
Another thing I want to point
Sure,
out
go
about
ahead.
ferry crossing is the community was really very much on board with it.
Okay.
Right about 6 months after it opened, maybe it was even 4 months after it opened, they realized that there were no washers and dryers in there. And one of the local churches, it just wasn't part of there was obviously a dishwasher and refrigerator and stove, but just no washer dryers. One of the local churches made it their mission to provide washer and dryer for every unit at Ferry Crossing. So not only did the town, the government by planning and zoning pass it through, everything was great, but the churches came together for it and really made it part of their community.
Very nice. Very nice.
There is a soccer field that is adjacent to it. The town owns the soccer field.
Okay.
And a lot of times the residents will be over there playing on the field because it's a nice wide open space for the kids.
All right.
So we really are trying to use Ferry Crossing as an example of what other towns can do.
Okay.
And a lot of towns have come to us and said, we want to do something similar. And the key is finding the site, finding the right location that is accessible to transportation, that's walkable to different things, but also is inexpensive. And it's very hard, as you know, Pete, to find land in this area that is inexpensive. Land is very expensive on the shoreline. So we are fortunate that the town of Old Saybrook was willing to donate the land for Ferry Crossing. That's not something that happens very often. And we're hoping that some of the other communities on the shoreline will step up and, if not donate, will at least help us find some land that could be suitable for something similar.
Exactly.
We have a couple of properties that we're working with the different towns that we mentioned before on some different properties. And a big part of what we need to focus on is the zoning, because not every town has the zoning necessary for a multifamily development.
Right.
So that's something we're trying to, like I said before, we're trying to lay the groundwork by getting in there, making ourselves known to the different planning and zoning officials, and as well as the selectmen, just to let them know that we will be coming soon, with a project. So here we are. This is what we're about. So just to kind of lay the groundwork is really important.
I'm going to say the towns have been pretty supportive. When you came in front of the Board of Selectmen and said, here we are, here's what we want to do.
For Ferry Crossing, yes, it was unanimous, actually.
Every town is supportive of the idea of what we're trying to do.
Good.
The trick is, the devil's in the details, and finding a location that works and finding the neighbors that were willing to support it, and that's often the challenge.
Exactly. Exactly. So what else do we want to tell everybody about Hope Partnerships and the wonderful organization you're both involved with?
Well, one of the things we've done recently is we're working with the town of Clinton, and we were involved with them on putting together an incentive housing zone panel. Incentive housing zone is what we used for ferry crossing, to build ferry crossing, and we put together a panel. We actually received a grant to put together a panel for the town, and we brought in some zoning professionals and incentive housing zone experts that were able to answer some questions of property owners, because the town of Clinton is working towards putting together the regulations for an incentive housing zone.
Really? Wow.
So we did that about a month and a half ago. So we're trying to say, well, Hope was here, little pieces here and there. We're trying to make sure we're known out and about.
Okay.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about
I think the only other thing I'd like to mention is that we need people's support financially, obviously, but also volunteer support, and we need ideas for locations. Okay. So if any of your viewers have potential ideas for good locations, if any of them happen to own land or know of people that own land that could be suitable. It's not something that can work everywhere.
No, of course.
It has to be near services, near transportation, and in a neighborhood that's going to be appropriate for multifamily housing.
Exactly.
But we would love to get some feedback from your viewers about those kinds of
And I
things.
was going to say what I can do is they can get the contact information from tonight's show off the website, or they can just email me, and I can basically pass on any information.
And they can go on our website.
Sure.
And that's our videos on there as well, if anyone wants to learn a little bit more about Hope that they didn't learn tonight.
Exactly. Well, we still got few more minutes to learn a little bit more about the organization.
Okay.
Exactly what you guys do.
Well, I wanted to maybe just also mention, I think Lauren already mentioned this about Old Lyme. This is something that's very exciting. Old Lyme Affordable Housing is an existing nonprofit organization that was formed over 20 years ago by some volunteers, and they actually built 3 single-family houses over many years, and they just realized that they're kind of tired. They've been doing this for a while, and they saw what wonderful things Hope was doing, and approached us and said, how about we talk about an affiliation or a merger? And so just recently we concluded the merger with Old Lyme Affordable Housing, and Hope Partnership is now working in Old Lyme. Some of the volunteers from that organization are now on our board, and we're actively looking for some ways to do some stuff across the river, not just in Old Lyme, but also in East Lyme and perhaps even Waterford.
And had the mergers going well so far?
So far, it's just happened recently, but
good.
And that's
good.
our fundraiser that we held in
right.
January was a celebration of the consolidation.
All right, okay. So
You call it consolidation.
I call it the consolidation
that's
celebration.
okay, you can call it the
Yeah, it's
consolidation
better than a merger.
celebration.
Yeah, it was the consolidation celebration.
That's okay.
We all had fun and we all laughed a lot, but we were grateful that quite a few new friends came out for that event. We had over 80 people at the fundraiser. It was at the Cooley Gallery in Old Lyme, which were such gracious hosts. They didn't charge us for our event, and they were willing to let us mill around and check out their artwork. So
Really?
cool. It was a
great.
great event. It was our best attended so far. So we
Absolutely.
were very excited to get some new support.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah.
And what?
I was going to say,
Go for it.
another way we connect, we do send out constant contact emails. So we do, if anyone wants to get on our mailing list just to hear a little bit about it, we wouldn't inundate anyone with information, but we do send out periodic updates as to what's happening with Hope.
Probably every couple months, send out an update of
Yeah.
what's going on, things coming up in the community. Now, I'm going to ask the question that I ask all the time,
Okay.
and this is for both of you.
Okay.
Question is going to be, if I didn't know either of you, and I was just found out about Hope Partnerships, and I was thinking about writing a check and sending money, what if I didn't know either of you, and I said to you, why should I? There's a lot of nonprofits out there.
Right.
Why should I write the check to you guys? What makes you guys different than the other nonprofits out there? What would you tell me?
Well, you want to start?
You can go. And
Go
then-
ahead, Tony.
Sure?
Yep.
All right. My answer to that question, and I'm sure Lauren has an answer too, but it's number one, we're local.
Yeah.
And I think there's some great charities that are doing work throughout the world, throughout the country, and those are important too. But
Right.
I think I always go by my personal philosophy of starting local and supporting local good works that are happening. So this is about helping our neighbors, helping to improve our local economy, helping to basically maintain and preserve a quality of life that we all value in this area. And it's a quality of life that we can lose if we're not careful, because if people can't afford to live here that we rely on to do all the things that we value, then we as a community will suffer from that.
Okay.
So it's a local effort. It's a local organization. We have very low overhead.
Okay.
So most of what you contribute goes to support the direct work that we do, and not a lot of overhead.
Okay.
So those are my answers.
All right.
Well, my biggest answer is that I live in that. I live in Old Saybrook. I live in the community.
Right.
I have children in the school system, and I know I follow that bus in the morning, and they stop at every one of those hotels. A few kids get on those buses. So I personally know the need. When I first started, I kind of said, affordable housing, really? What do we really need that in
Right.
this town? And little by little, I learned that there really is a need, and I think that it's very important for our work. Is very important to spread the word that there is a need,
Right.
and that's a big part of what I like to make sure people know.
All right. We have about a minute and a half left. What else do we want to outreach to our viewers and listeners about Hope Partnerships and why the organization is such an awesome organization?
We have a great show that we put on, a presentation that we put on. We'd be willing to talk to any community group.
Okay.
We're just starting to really build that up. Rotaries, Lions Clubs, like I mentioned before. And we'd be willing to talk to people. They could reach us through you or on our website.
Did we mention the Iverton Playhouse event?
Our Iverton Playhouse event in the fall.
No, we didn't. Thank
In
you
the
very
fall
much.
is
Sure.
going to be the Little Shop of Horrors.
Good show.
Yeah, it's
show.
going to be a great
I haven't
show.
seen that show in a while.
Has
Yeah.
nothing to do with housing.
No,
but that's
nothing to do with
okay.
housing, but everyone needs a fun night out.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a fun night out. It's a sold out house, and so get your tickets early.
Okay.
And you can get information about the show on our website. And it's not just a show. There's usually there's a cocktail hour before the show with lots of hors d'oeuvres, lots of good things to drink and eat,
All right.
and lots of fellowship.
All right. Well, we're about to say goodnight, but before we do, before we do, I just want to thank you guys for coming down tonight, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Great.
That would be
Thank
great.
you so much. We
Thanks
love
for
it.
having us.
Thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
On behalf of the esteemed colleagues of Lauren and Tony, I'm Peter. Thanks and good night, and we'll see you next week.